let us move along to Module 2, Introduction to Workflow. The traditional workflow, as I pointed out, involved a lot of human activities, right? We had humans essentially being a filter in order to reduce the amount that made it to the next level of the chain. So we would have these multiple levels of validation and of manual analysis, because that's also what the SOC level 2 did, was try and be the funnel to try and pick out the most important stuff that the level 3 was going to pay attention to, right? Now, as we've already covered, our bottom-up definition of raw events and signals and alerts, we are leveraging machine learning and intelligent rules and advanced analytics to try and build alerts that essentially are doing what that original level 1 was doing, to provide the triage function. And machine learning computers can do that as long as they have electricity, so 24/7. For the stellar cyber workflow, alerts will form our base, and then incidents will provide a wider scope. And already I know of customers who have flattened their SOC team, where the raw events coming in are there. We need them for historical and sometimes legal reasons. And then alerts are coming in to the SOC team. And yes, there are distinctions between junior SOC members and senior SOC members, but it's not this clearly striated version. Alerts are also part of creating incidents, which then can also feed into a workflow of analysis. And when the SOC team decides, this is odd, you might have a policy that you need to tell your customers, or you may have to report to, a manager or something, right? Then the team will make a decision. Do I escalate this because it's a little bit beyond what I can understand, or can I just respond to this? Do I know what's going on? It enables that flattening of the infrastructure. And now I do want to say it is very useful to have some kind of case tracking system in place, because as security analysts, frequently we do not have all of the connections with the various IT components, right? We will have to coordinate across teams, or in the case of an MSSP, coordinate with a customer. So having some kind of case tracking system can help facilitate that communication with individuals or teams that do not have access to the Stellar Cyber data processor. And I also just want to make a point that we are able to add additional alerts to any particular incident that comes up. So that is a possibility to help you with your workflow. My advice: focus on the big rocks. These are the most severe versions, and I can actually move into the user interface a little bit. So who knows what's going to be in here right now. So this is over the last 24 hours. I'd probably focus on this component, but this effort will be iterative. So it is reasonable to say, all right, I'm just going to look at the most severe ones. Oh, okay, I have one. I'm going to click in and start looking at this particular alert. The other thing I can do to help reduce duplication of effort is we have this event status. Let me just, hopefully that makes it more visible. Event status, especially if I'm going through for a first time, I can set the event status to new. So these are events that have not been looked at. And now, all events that are above a particular alert score, all of them that are new, I can click in. All right, multiple users, boom, more info. And now I can set this status to in progress. I'm not going to set it to in progress. I don't want to mess anyone else up, but set it to in progress. I could maybe go to my training system. And we can see what's been going on in the past week. Pretty quiet system. So let's go see propagation. USB was inserted, same host. Well, this raises another interesting idea. I can also just select these. I can set them both to in progress. This is my system, so I can do that. Like I see they're the same host. Maybe even add a comment. I can add these to both of these situations and deal with them as a group. Maybe I have a case system, and now with that added as a comment, just to show you, this now becomes searchable. So alerts, it's going to do a simple search. Those two alerts, I just added so that those comments become text searchable very, very easily. All right. And if I'm only looking at new stuff, look, they're not there. Now, I briefly went through the all alerts page, which some organizations want to use. I can't tell you what is going to work best for your organization. It is going to depend on some of your history, how you've done things in the past. So we can also just go to alerts, which is the same place I went to. And I would recommend kind of working through the filters. All right, none here. This 0/22 means within this section, exfiltration and impact, there are 22 alert types, but 0 were triggered, given event status new, right? The filters are always in place. And that is probably one of the things happens to me on a daily basis, where if I'm jumping around to different things, I'll be confused. I saw it a moment ago. All right, so nothing in propagation. Let's go there. Oh, look, I just proved it. My search 1, 2, 3, 4. That's why it wasn't giving me see anything. All right. So here, propagation, exploration. It's a very quiet system. Oh, there, I have some initial attempts, which is a lovely space to be in, that you only have some initial attempts. But take a look over on our sales demo site and do the same kind of process. I can look at the alerts. Notice I have the alert score. I have the event status new across everything. All right, what do I want to look at first? All right, I have this one. All right, now I'll look at propagation. Okay, internal Trojan. I want to go take a look at that. This is all about what is a person going to be spending time investigating, and how do we reduce multiple people looking at the same thing at the same time. And then once we get through this set, I mean, we could, all right, now I'm going to increase this down to 25, make this 50. I mean, we could go to that level, but if everything's already been handled, it's just as easy to reduce the alert score and, go through the process, sorting by values. I'm going to say that some organizations do prefer a very simple dash plane time focused view, which is perfectly reasonable, right? We will have different requirements based on our past history. So this is one where we can look. That was not what I intended to do. We're going to find the timestamp column again. I was trying to click the sort component. Time. There's a lot of records here, or I can't click in the right spot. All right, there we go. So I can just drag this over here and very carefully click the little arrow. So some organizations want to deal with these alerts in a more time-focused manner. And so, you'd set your period to whatever. And now, hit this, go through. Hit this, set to in progress. This is a perfectly valid way to do business, right? Your organization will need to decide how you want to handle the situation, but we also have the filters to get started, all open versus we're only going to see the new ones versus what alert score to help you focus in on what works for you. All right. So something I want to talk a little bit about, the difference between internal and external alert types, because specific alerts types, it makes a difference if there is a port scan happening on your firewall, which would be classified as an initial attempt, or happening from a private address to another private thing, from a private address to another private address. So there is a distinction, there is a difference. Port scans on your firewall are happening all the time, but port scans from a private address to another private address, that's a lot fishier. And this will affect how you want to respond. Now, let me also say some of the alert types, they only make sense if you can't log in from an abnormal location based on an RFC 1918 IP address. And some only make sense because they're based on there was an SSH session to a system that does RDP, and that specific RDP logon isn't always, it just gets more complicated. So some of them are external only, some of them are internal only. Now we have let's take a look at those two in particular. Go to our alerts, and we will take a look for internal user login failure. So here we have two different versions that are essentially the same. One is initial attempts, one is a propagation. This is XDR kill chain propagation based on MITRE attack framework. This is the tactic credential access. We have a quick generic description. This light bulb here, if you are interested in the details as you are attempting to evaluate what you're seeing, this light bulb will take you right into our documentation, our knowledge base. And we can learn some interesting things here. The internal user login failure anomaly, large number of failures, source IP and destination IP with these keys. FYI, the key field does not mean key as in important or a key idea. Rather, it means key as in one of the indexes. So it's in the sense of a database as opposed to in the sense of a philosopher, because a lot of these are key fields. They're very interesting, philosophically speaking, but the source IP and destination IP are, I'll say, mathematically important, right? Now, another note here, if you are doing your investigations within the knowledge base, hey, look, there are these links into the MITRE attack framework. So you can dig in more deeply if you need to figure out what's going on. Let us take a look at the external user agent anomaly. We again have a distinction of external and internal, just don't happen to have any on the system, but again, now user agent anomaly, this is a network level indicator of something weird, right? And the MITRE attack framework just happens to be more focused on endpoints as opposed to network. We have extended the MITRE attack framework, and we can see this with the XDR MBA, Network Behavior Analytics, and a specific technique. I would imagine that if the MITRE attack framework expanded their definitions of what they wanted to care about, some of these may transition in the future, but these are still very, very interesting. A user agent, this can be indicative of a couple different things, right? If you never see Python script user agent on your network and all of a sudden you see it, you're going to want to find out why. Is it you just hired someone who now knows Python scripting, or there's some malware now floating around? It is something to investigate. It's not always malicious per se. However, it is weird. So that is what this user agent anomaly detection is showing us. And it's something, it used to be you had to write rules, and it effectively was a whitelist of allowable user agents. And we've expanded it to being a bit more intelligent. But this was something, and it doesn't exist in MITRE, but it might be something if you see on your network, you're going to want to take a look, figure out what's going on. Real quick note to help you get through navigating these different pages. We've already seen that searches and filters are maintained. We've already seen we have different types of side filtering. So if I select something, notice there are 23 types on here. It just expanded. But if I select between groups, the number decreases. So within a section, it's a Boolean or, and between sections, it's a Boolean and. Must meet this as well as the listing under alert types. These columns are, play around with them. And we've already seen bulk actions that are available within. If I jump into a specific alert type page, I have various bulk actions because it looks to me, based on the time range, based on everything else, based on the source host, everything else, these are clearly related. And the bulk actions are the same if you are looking under the alerts. Oh, these three guys. I recognize those three guys. And I'm going to change their status. All right. In addition to adding comments, like I showed you for perhaps making a notation that these are related to some external case tracking system, we can also add assignees if we have assignees within the system. So these are assigned within the data processor, or use a comment. That works too. It's all text searchable. Event tags, be careful with event tags because this column, if everyone's adding custom tags, can get weird characters if you're on a sales system, right? You'll want to have a process by which actual event tags are coordinated and managed, or it will become potentially unusable. But they do become very useful. We'll talk a little bit about this in a later section. Event tags, assignees, these become quick filter ways to get the job done in terms of filtering down. I showed you this first, but for a given alert, whether here or elsewhere, oh dear, we have the definition and everything else. We can also, for an individual alert, set the status and take actions like commenting, adding an event tag. We can trigger an email, which is very useful for sending an email to a case tracking system or running a script. There's going to be a lot of flexibility. And I can't tell you what the best thing to do is because I don't know your specific circumstances, right? Initial workflow review. We are going to use the machine learning to help us pull in the important alerts and other information to help elevate our entire team or perhaps our junior members so that they can now make a decision. Do I have to escalate or can I just respond? We will leverage various filters to make sure we focus on the most significant alerts. This will be an iterative process. We're going to start and then we're going to lower the thresholds just to focus on those big rocks. Work status helps us reduce duplicate work, and bulk edits helps us, tie some different elements together, including I didn't actually mention it, but I'll show it I'll do a preview. We could also take these 3 items and add to an incident, both a new incident or existent. So that's my teaser for the next section.